Honestly speaking, among all fruits, I find buying a whole watermelon the hardest. Because from the outside, one fruit looks quite similar to another. Some are round, with beautiful shiny skin, very eye-catching, and when you hold them, they seem fresh and delicious, so many times we just think choosing like that is already fine. But in reality, it is not that simple. I used to choose watermelon by feeling too, just buying whichever one looked nice. But since I was shown how to choose by a farmer who has grown watermelons for many years, I truly realized that there are actually many points on a watermelon for us to observe. And it is exactly those small details that help us recognize which watermelon is good, which one is sweet, which one is crisp and juicy, and which ones should be avoided. Hello everyone, I'm Mary. Today I will share those very simple tips with you, so that the next time you go to buy watermelon, you will feel more confident and be able to choose a good one more easily for your family. Tip 1. First, look at the stripes on the watermelon skin. When you pick up a watermelon, do not just look at whether it is round and beautiful, but look carefully at the stripes on the skin. A good watermelon usually has dark-colored stripes that are quite clear and run evenly across the fruit. When you look at it, you will see that the color areas are more distinct, not blurry, and not blending into each other too much. According to the experience of watermelon growers, fruits with such clear stripes are usually ones that have developed well and ripened better, so the flesh inside also has better sweetness, crispness, and juice content. As for watermelons whose stripes are faint, pale, broken, or unevenly distributed, they are often more likely to be not fully ripe. When cut open, such fruits are very likely to taste bland, not fragrant, and the juiciness is also poorer. So from now on, when choosing watermelon, pay attention to the stripes first. This is one of the easiest signs to see, and anyone can apply it. Tip 2. Next, look at the yellow spot on the bottom of the fruit. This is a point that I myself did not pay attention to before. Later, when it was pointed out to me, I realized how important it actually is. The yellow spot on the bottom of the fruit is the place where the watermelon lay in contact with the ground while it was growing. Because that part does not receive much sunlight, the color will be different from the rest of the skin. If this spot has a deep yellow color and is clearly visible, then that is usually a good sign. It shows that the watermelon stayed in the field long enough to ripen naturally. When it has enough time to develop, the fruit will accumulate more sugar and water, so when eaten, it will be sweeter, the flesh will be firmer, and it will be crisper. On the contrary, if you see that this part is pale white, very light yellow, or looks faint and unclear, then usually that fruit is not fully ripe yet. When cut open, such fruits are very likely to be bland and not satisfying to eat. So if I have to choose between two fruits, I will prioritize the one with the deeper and clearer yellow spot. Tip 3. Look at the overall green color of the watermelon skin. Another very easy tip to apply is to look at the overall color of the watermelon skin. Watermelons that ripen naturally usually have a darker green color, and the skin looks a little more mature, rather than bright and shiny in the way unripe fruit often does. When I heard the farmer explain this, I found it very reasonable. A watermelon that has had enough time to develop will have a more complete skin, and the color will also be deeper. But fruits whose green color is too pale, too bright, and looks immature are often harvested early. And if they are harvested early, then the flesh inside has not had enough time to reach its best sweetness, so they will taste less delicious. So when standing in front of many watermelons, just calmly look at the overall skin color. Usually, fruits with a darker green color are the ones more worth paying attention to. Tip 4. Gently turn the watermelon over to look at the blossom end. This is also a detail very worth checking, but many people at the market often overlook it. You will see that some fruits have a rather large blossom end, while others have a smaller one. According to the experience that was shared with me, a fruit with a smaller blossom end is usually the better choice. Because while the fruit develops and gradually ripens, this part will shrink. In other words, the smaller the blossom end is, the more likely it is that the fruit has ripened more thoroughly, the rind is thinner, and the flesh inside also has a better chance of being more delicious. But if the blossom end is too large, that may be a sign that the fruit was cut a little early, before reaching full ripeness. And if that is the case, then the sweetness is usually not as good. Each time you choose a watermelon, you only need to gently turn the bottom over and look for a moment. It is very quick, but it gives us one more basis for choosing more accurately. Tip 5. Do not forget to look at the stem. The stem is also a very interesting detail, and honestly, until now many people only glance at it, without really observing it carefully. The stem is the part that once carried nutrients to feed the fruit throughout its development, so by looking at the stem, we can guess more about the freshness and, to some extent, the ripeness of the fruit. If the stem is still relatively fresh and still has some green color, then usually the fruit was not harvested too long ago. This is usually better than fruits whose stems are already too dried up and yellowed. This watermelon that I bought had also been harvested for many days already, so the stem had dried out. In addition, you should also notice whether the stem is slightly curved or naturally a little curled. Many experienced people believe that a curved or slightly curled stem is often a sign that the fruit ripened more naturally in the field. But if the stem is too straight and looks as if it was cut too early, then the possibility that the fruit has not reached its best quality is higher. Of course, we should not look at the stem alone and decide immediately, but if you combine the stem with other signs such as the yellow spot, the rind stripes, and the blossom end, then the chance of choosing the right good watermelon will be much higher. Tip 6. Finally, tap it lightly and listen to the sound. This is a tip that many people have probably heard before, but not everyone knows exactly what kind of sound to listen for. When you pick up the watermelon, tap it lightly a few times with your hand, about 3 to 5 taps is enough. After that, if possible, try tapping a few other watermelons as well to compare. If you hear a deep, firm sound with a moderate echo, then that is usually a fairly good sign. Watermelons like that often have fuller flesh inside, are juicier, and are more evenly ripe. On the other hand, if the sound is too dull or too high and hollow, then the fruit may not be ripe yet, or the inside may no longer be good. Some watermelons look very beautiful on the outside, but when you tap them, the sound does not seem right, and in that case, I will think again instead of choosing too quickly. This tip is very convenient because you can apply it right on the spot and do not need any tools at all. You only need to pay a little attention. Actually, it is not enough to look at only one point. The most effective way to choose a watermelon is to look at many signs together. For example, if a watermelon has clear stripes, a dark green color, a beautiful yellow spot, a small blossom end, a slightly curved stem, and when tapped gives a deep, firm sound, then there is a high chance that it is a good watermelon. Since learning these tips, I have found buying watermelon much easier. I no longer choose by vague feeling, but instead have a basis for observing and comparing. Thanks to that, I also avoid the situation of bringing a watermelon home and then feeling disappointed. Once I have chosen a watermelon that I am happy with, I usually like to cut it in a very simple way, easy to do, something anyone in the family can do. First, cut off the stem end. Then use a sharp knife to cut lengthwise and divide the watermelon into 2 halves. Only at this point do we almost know whether we chose correctly or not. If you cut it open and the flesh is bright red, juicy, refreshing to look at, and has a pleasant fragrance, then it truly feels very satisfying, because you know that you chose the right one. Next, place 1/2 of the watermelon on the cutting board so it sits firmly. Then cut it lengthwise into moderately sized long pieces. After that, cut across again into small bite-sized pieces. This way of cutting is very neat and very easy to do. It is not elaborate, but it is convenient when eating. Each piece is easy to hold and easy to take, and both children and older people can eat it conveniently. I like this method because it is practical. We do not need to cut in a way that is too elaborate or too decorative, as long as it is easy to do, easy to eat, and easy to apply in daily life, then it is already very suitable. So with just a few very simple points on the watermelon, we can already feel much more confident when choosing a watermelon. When you know how to observe correctly, you will find it easier to choose watermelons that are sweeter, crisper, and more delicious for your family. If you find these tips helpful, please try applying them the next time you go to the market. Thank you for watching the video. Please press the like button and subscribe to Mary Home to support me. Goodbye, and see you again.